Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to talk about something that touches millions of lives, but often in the shadows, alcoholic drinks. We're going to get into the science, we'll bust some major myths, and we'll see the real-world impact of it all through a really powerful, true story. Just imagine hearing those words from your own mother. This was a real ultimatum given to a man named Amit. It was the moment his family, completely broken by alcohol, finally said, "Enough is enough." So, how does a life with so much promise get to a point that low? It's a heavy question, and to really get it, we've got to go back to the beginning of Amit's story. Growing up, Amit was, the perfect son. He was brilliant in school, super respectful, basically his mother's pride and joy. He didn't drink, and actually, he really looked down on people who did, seeing them as kind of pathetic folks who were just ruining their families. But when he went off to college, things started to shift. Being away from home for the first time, with a whole new group of friends, that's when Amit had his first drink. And it wasn't some big dramatic rebellion, not at all. It was just a casual celebration for getting good grades. And you know how it goes. That one little celebration slowly started to become a regular thing. At first, it was just parties here and there, but then it turned into a whole weekend ritual. His friends would even pat him on the back for how much he could drink, which made him feel, cool and accepted. The real tipping point, though, came after a really bad breakup. He was crushed. And to try and numb that pain, Amit started drinking every single day. That temporary relief he found in a bottle became something he felt he needed just to get by. And from there, his life just went into a total freefall.
So Amit felt this relief when he drank, right? A way to escape his stress. But that feeling isn't just in his head. It's all about the science of how alcohol messes with our bodies and our brains. See, the funny thing is, alcohol is a totally natural substance. It's not some complicated chemical we invented in a lab. Nope, it's made by a simple biological process called fermentation.
This process has been happening on Earth for millions of years. When fruit gets super ripe and falls off a tree, yeast in the air lands on it and starts eating the sugar. And what does it produce? Alcohol. That's probably how the first beers and wines were discovered, totally by accident. But us humans, we figured out a way to take it to the next level. See, fermentation naturally stops when the alcohol content gets to about 15%, because it actually kills the yeast. So we invented distillation, basically heating up the fermented liquid to separate and concentrate the alcohol, creating way more potent stuff like whiskey and vodka. So what happens when you drink this stuff? Well, the alcohol gets into your bloodstream and makes a beeline for your liver. There, an enzyme turns it into a super toxic chemical called acetaldehyde. That chemical, that's the real villain behind your hangovers. Then another enzyme has to work like crazy to break that poison down into something harmless. The problem is your liver can only work so fast, so the extra alcohol that it can't process right away heads straight to your brain. And think of your brain like it has a brake pedal and a gas pedal. Alcohol slams on the brake, making you feel calm and relaxed, and at the same time it takes its foot off the gas, which is why your thinking and reactions get all slow and sluggish. And here's the real trap. On top of all that, alcohol floods your brain with dopamine and endorphins. Those are your feel-good chemicals. This creates this intense but temporary feeling of pleasure. And that trains your brain to think, hey, I was stressed, I drank, and now I feel good. It literally starts to rewire itself to crave the very thing that's hurting it. But all that temporary pleasure comes with a huge long-term price tag. For Amit, what started as a way to just feel better for a little while turned into a dangerous cycle of serious, lasting damage. Long-term drinking literally changes the physical structure of your brain. For starters, it can actually cause your brain to shrink. It really damages the frontal lobe, which is your control center for making good decisions and managing your emotions. This is exactly why Amit became so angry and irrational. And it shrinks the hippocampus, your memory center, which leads to memory loss and those scary blackouts where you have no idea what you did. And of course, your liver just gets hammered. The damage usually happens in 4 stages. It starts with something called fatty liver, which, good news, is reversible if you stop drinking. But if you don't, it can progress to hepatitis, and then fibrosis, where the liver starts to form scar tissue. The final stage is cirrhosis. At that point, the liver's so hard and scarred, it just stops working. And those last 2 stages, they're irreversible. And this is so crucial. It's not just the brain and the liver. We're talking about damage to nearly every organ in your body. It weakens your heart, inflames your pancreas, hurts your kidneys, and can give you painful ulcers. It's a full-body assault. So over time, 2 really dangerous things start to happen. First, your body builds a tolerance, which means you need to drink more and more just to get that same buzz you used to. But then comes dependence, and that's way more serious. That's when your brain chemistry has physically changed so much that it now needs alcohol just to feel normal. And if you try to stop, the withdrawal is just brutal. Now, a lot of people, especially those who only drink occasionally, think they're in the clear. We tell ourselves little stories to justify our habits. But the truth is, a lot of what we believe about alcohol is based on some pretty dangerous myths.
So let's just tackle the biggest myth right out of the gate. We always hear about moderate drinking or finding a safe limit. But does a safe limit for alcohol actually exist?
The science on this is crystal clear. According to the World Health Organization, there is no safe amount of alcohol that doesn't come with a health risk. None. Every single drink you take causes some level of damage. Okay, you might be thinking, but what about red wine? I mean, everyone says a glass of red wine is good for your heart, right? We hear that one all the time. Well, here's the deal. While grapes do have some healthy antioxidants, the damage done by the alcohol in the wine is way worse than any tiny benefit you might get from those antioxidants. If you want the health benefits, honestly, you're much better off just eating a bunch of grapes. And please, don't fall for the idea that beer or wine are somehow safer than hard liquor. Your liver doesn't know the difference. A pint of beer, a glass of wine, or a shot of whiskey, they all have about the same amount of pure alcohol. To your body, it's all just poison. And the damage from alcohol goes so far beyond just your own health. Remember when Amit, in a drunken rage, actually hit his wife? His addiction wasn't just destroying him, it was destroying his family and putting everyone around him in danger. And this isn't just one story. The data is shocking. Studies show that the risk of domestic violence is more than 3 times higher in homes where the husband drinks alcohol. 3 times. And that danger spills right out onto our roads. In a single year in India, over 3,000 people were killed by drunk drivers. These weren't just statistics. They were parents, kids, friends, people whose lives were just tragically stolen. And if we zoom out to the global picture, it's even worse. Every year, alcohol is directly responsible for 2.6 million deaths around the world. It is a massive and often ignored public health crisis. Now, most stories like Amit's unfortunately end in tragedy, but thankfully, his story has a different ending, an ending of hope. That day, when his mom and his wife were packing their bags to leave him, that was it. That was Amit's rock bottom. He begged them, just sobbing, for one last chance, and he swore he would get help. And let me tell you, that road to recovery was not easy at all. He went through terrible withdrawal, and he was tempted to go back to drinking every single day. But with the incredible support of his family and groups like Alcoholics Anonymous, he found the strength to push through. Today, 10 years later, Amit is 47 years old. He's completely sober, he's a successful entrepreneur, he has rebuilt his entire life. His story is just this incredible reminder that it doesn't matter how dark things get, recovery is always possible. If you or anyone you know is struggling with this, please know that help is out there. The first and hardest step is just admitting there's a problem. There is absolutely no shame in asking for help. There are government helplines, support groups like AA, and professional medical help. You don't have to go through this alone. So we'll end with this question. For Amit, and for millions of people just like him, this whole devastating spiral started with what seemed like one harmless drink. It really makes you step back and think about our own relationship with alcohol and ask ourselves, what's the real costs of just one drink?